Julien, welcome.
Wow, Christian, it feels like yesterday, my friend.
It does feel like yesterday, although I was counting the years and I'm not even sure I'm allowed to say how many years it's been, but we've always been in touch. I'm super happy to have you on the pod today and reconnect and have the chance. We've chatted before the pod, but to have a really different conversation that I used to have on my podcast, which is more about B2B marketing um, and of AI space, but at the same time, we'll touch on those topics. But before we start, I can introduce you, but at the same time, I'd love if you can say a little bit more about what you do. For example, you're co-founder and president of Blueprint North America. Can you tell us a little bit, like for the listeners, like what is it that you do exactly?
The elevator pitch, right, Christian? Well, the good news, I've practiced this a million times. And it's, look, if I were to oversimplify it, first of
Yeah,
all, it's a privilege to be here with you today, Christian, and to riff on some topics that we both have passion for. And,
yeah,
and ultimately, I'm in the confidence business. I help
cool.
people with their business confidence. If they have too much of it, that's a problem because now you lean into arrogance and nothing good happens in that space. If you don't have enough, we have a problem because if you wouldn't do
Yeah,
business with yourself, how can you ask or invite others to want to do business with you? So,
yeah,
what we're trying to do is we help people mostly in four areas: strategic confidence, leadership confidence, and then coaching confidence, because we work with a lot of leaders. So, it's how do you take what you know, what you're trying to, the impact you're trying to have, and bring others for the journey. And then of course, there's always areas that if we don't have the expertise, we partner with people like you, for instance, Christian, to say,
mm,
hey, some people are looking for AI confidence. Could
mm,
we collaborate there? But
mm.
ultimately, we're in the confidence business for leaders. That's what we do.
Such a great fit. I know you from, let's say it, 20 years ago, we worked at PepsiCo together. We were cubicles colleagues, right? And I could hear you speaking on the phone, those like those moments where it's silent, you can hear your colleague. Don't say what I was talking about on the phone, but I could tell by your tone that you were confident. Even at that point, I mean, you would see, I remember you would cross the general manager at the time. His name is slipping my mind, and a great gentleman, president for Canada for Pepsi QTG at the time.
Greg
And
Shearson. Greg Shearson.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
amazing gentleman. And you would be like having this, I would admire you for the confidence you had in front of him to be able to, you know, commit to, because you had a huge retailer at the time that you were responsible of. And we were competing in some ways because I was,
Yeah.
and it was interesting how just the tone, the rhythm, the eye contact, everything was directing towards confidence. I'm so not surprised today to hear that you are leading this company and you are specializing into confidence for leaders, and you are writing a book at the same time, right? Confidence is a choice, coming out in September.
Correct. Confidence is a choice. And it's something, Christian, that I've been obsessed with from the age of 18 all the way back to
Really?
my tennis days. Because
Yes.
what I would see, Christian, is I would be at a tennis academy. So I was fortunate to spend some time in Florida. I would
Yeah.
watch all the kids practice. They all looked the same, like they're all amazing. And then as soon as you got into a match or a tournament, something changed. I was like, what happened to that kid? Because during the week, he was amazing. And as soon as you turned the lights on or you said it's now go time, something completely changed. And from that day, honestly, I just became obsessed with how can I be confident as a leader,
Yeah.
as an athlete, as a dad, as a community person that's involved? And then how can I help others do the same? So it's
Mm.
been a quest that I've been on for a long time. I can tell you that much.
Wow, that's amazing. And related to tennis, let's riff on this for a second, because funny as it is, this morning I was working out and scrolling at the same time. Yes, I found a way to work out and scroll. And I ended up on this story and I thought of you, tennis, related to tennis. This teacher in Florida was saying that what separates the top five, oh, you heard that story, right?
No, but
From
share
the
it. Your guests are going to love this. It's one of my favorite stories.
like the top 5 ranked tennis players and the remaining 20, so top 25, what was the main difference? Wasn't the coaching, wasn't the physical skills, it wasn't their nutrition. It was what story they would tell themselves the 10, 15 seconds after they miss a point. So the winners, like the one who are top rank, would tell themselves something like, this is only a shot. I can get the next one. I love tennis. I'm in the right place right now. I can make this happen. And that's how they win. So I'm like, I thought of you right away. This is fantastic segue because there's a difference between confidence and clarity, right? Yeah. And we live in a world, because today we are going to explore strategic confidence in times of change. I mean, we live a very heavy changes at all level at the same moment. It's a question of optics, of course, right? Some people will absorb this more and be more affected by it than others. But what do you have to say about confidence and clarity? Like, where do you see the line, and how the leaders you work with, how do they handle both, you know?
Well, listen, given that this is a free-flowing conversation, I'm going to come back to a second, but I got to respond to what you shared around the voice and how you talk to yourself in between points. So whether you lost a point or won the point, I don't know if you got into Ted Lasso at all during the pandemic.
A little bit.
Is that a show? Yeah. So be the goldfish. It was this notion that allow yourself to be mad for 7, 8 seconds, but then regulate and go play the next point. But the insight that probably was the most profound, and that this will build into your question, is, I don't know if you saw Roger Federer's commencement speech that he did at Dartmouth University last year that went viral.
Yes.
It's a must watch for anyone listening to this and for yourself, Christian, because what he shares, and this is amazing, as one of the greatest tennis players ever to play, he lost 47% of all the points that he's ever played as a tennis professional. So he said the difference between being, world-class, a champion, a legend, winning the tournament, the US Open, is how you bounce back and how you respond to adversity and how you talk to yourself when you did not get the result. So I just wanted to add that before I go to the big question. And I also bought myself time because that's a big question you're asking, right? Confidence versus clarity. Because here's what I know, Christian. If you wait for clarity, you'll never get out of your own way. If you make the decision that I'm going to be confident as the leader of this new startup, of course, you want to try to get as much clarity as you can as it relates to what is the winning aspiration? What's the thing that we're driving towards? And the analogy that I love to use as someone that's done marathons is, I'm going to run very differently if I'm running a marathon versus a 10K versus a half marathon versus a 100-meter dash. So I have to have clarity around, hey, I'm in a marathon. It's 42.6 kilometers. I'm going to have to build a 16-week strategic plan on how I'm going to optimize myself, what I eat, who I train with. What happens if it rains? Do I have the right equipment? Am I going to go faster in the first half than the second half? What happens if I don't have it today? Do I push and risk injury or do I pull out? Right? So I don't know exactly what's going to take place that day. And I'm never going to have clarity of, is it going to rain? Is it going to be sunny? Is it going to be a fast day? Is the wind going to impact? Am I going to get sucked into a fast pace because the people next to me, my ego got caught in? What the clarity that was required, though, is it a marathon or half marathon? And I think that once you make the choice to be confident as a leader, you owe it to yourself and your team to have clarity around what is it that we're driving towards. So when I open the door, what are we all charging towards? We might not know how to get there. We might not have experience. We might not have the right resources. We might not have, X, Y, Z, but at least we know where we're going and where we're driving together. So you have this force multiplier at play.
Interesting. It's very timely what you're saying. And thank you for saying that, because I recently have been working with a client where the leader is looking for clarity in a spreadsheet, and you can fudge spreadsheet day in, day out. You can make it say what you want it to say, but at the same time, it has to be balanced with a vision, with clarity around where you're going, and that's something interesting you just mentioned. It's like, how do you paint the picture for the rest of the organization of where we are going? I think that's a driving force to reaching the goals, right? More than anything else. How do you communicate it with confidence? How do you get people engaged into that vision
Well,
and show that they are
let's think about
empowered?
yeah. So let's think about it. Sorry to jump in. You got me really
No, no,
excited
no,
there,
go.
guys. Here's what I've seen as someone that leads strategic offsite, that coaches people around strategy is the questions are the answers ultimately, right?
Mm-hmm.
Peter Drucker, the famous management guru, had a great quote where he said, "There's nothing worse than having the right answer to the wrong question, because all your energy, resource, efforts go in the wrong area, especially if you're the leader." So let's bring this back to having a rally cry or a true north or an ambition. The two examples I love sharing with people is Coca-Cola. They have a vision statement. You can go on their website. But they have a rally cry that, funny enough, I've talked to people recently that's still in the business, depending on what business unit you would work at Coke. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately is what they're trying to be is an arm's reach of desire. So when someone's thirsty, is there a Coke product within an arm's reach of desire? So if you ask the HR person, what are you doing at Coke? We're trying to find people that can help us get to arm's reach of desire. If you're talking to
Right.
an engineer, what's your team working on? Oh, we're working on a new refrigerated, little cooler so that we can have it at the baseball field so that when the kids are
That's it.
thirsty, arms reach of desire. We're not in Marriott hotels because they've got exclusivity with Pepsi. What are we doing to try? Oh, maybe we could get Tropicana in there, for instance, or Coca-Cola. Maybe they can get Minute Maid in there, not Tropicana. I got confused with the brand. NASA. If you talk to people that work at NASA, I was just at a
Mm.
conference recently called Spacebound, and it was fantastic. You know when you
Mm.
shouldn't be in a room because everybody in the room is way smarter than you? That
Mm-hmm.
was the room I was in. It was
Wow.
shocking, the intelligence there. But you know what was interesting talking to people that have worked at NASA? They said the most unified NASA ever was is when JFK literally just made a declaration that we're putting a person on the moon.
Mm.
Because it didn't matter what your role at NASA was, whether you were the janitor, whether you were an engineer or finance person. What are you doing here? We're putting a person on the moon. We
It
don't know
was.
how to do it. We don't know how to do it. We know where
Mm.
we're going. We have a common rally cry that we're going towards.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Do you see that common traits then into the leaders that you work with, that they are able to paint that vision more eloquently than others, or is this a natural skill, or it's something you can develop over time?
Well, what I love doing is testing any leader I work with to say, okay, let's play the phone game. We all play this when we're 5 years old. If I were to talk to any of your leaders and ask them, what does success look like this year? What are we driving towards? What do you think I would hear? And some of
Mm.
the CEOs are very confident to say, Julien, they've heard me say it so many times. I've boiled it down to three things. It's 60-second elevator pitch. They could probably recite it because they're sick of hearing me say it. And others literally pause and two things happen. The confident leaders, Julien, please try it and let's learn from it. The arrogant leaders, they'd be just fine. And I know exactly at that point that all I need to do is talk to anybody of their direct reports, and there is no clarity. And you know what's amazing? There's the retellability test if you think about it as a leader. We've all listened to a leader, we all leave, and I say, so, hey, what was Mr. Shearson saying in that town hall when we worked together at PepsiCo? The reason he was a world-class leader is his ability to distill an hour-long message into like a minute or 3 bullet points was
Yeah,
as good as I've ever seen it. So, Mr.
true.
Shearson, if you're listening to this, I'm telling you, I've worked with a lot of leaders. Your ability to communicate in a concise and clear manner that there was a fighting chance that Christian and I interpreted the same thing from your message
Yeah.
was off the chart. I don't see a lot of that, unfortunately, Christian, because I see a lot of leaders that fall in love with their voice, they fall in love with their narrative, but they don't make it easy for others to be able to retell that message, those priorities
Mm.
with their teams. And then that's where it falls apart because you don't have the cascading effect that we all want as leaders.
Very interesting. So how can you change that? How can you influence someone to take a real count of themselves, look at themselves in the mirror and say, you know what, that might be the missing ingredient here for me to be a world-class leader, right? How do you take them towards this end goal of them being a little bit more confident and painting that vision?
Well, look, I believe this more than ever. And I joke that I teach communication and I fail in every single conversation I'm in. Like, it's a very hard skill set to master. But what I can tell you is this. From everything I've studied around communication for impact, communication as a leader, rule of 3, don't have more than 3 points of view, because after that you dilute. We do math. So for instance, Christian, if I'm trying to sell you a car and I throw 10 benefits at you, I didn't make the argument stronger, because the math you're doing is you're averaging out. You're not adding up. So as a leader, we owe it to our teams to put all these things in buckets, and ideally in 3 buckets. And then I love challenging any leader, because I think these are all, you can learn this skill set. So I would take, I would say, okay, Christian, I'm working with you. How do we boil down your message to 3 things? We absolutely can do that. That's the skill set number 1. Number 2, I would say, hey, Christian, what's the tallest elevator in the world? And we'd go back and forth. And my guess is that you'd probably say it's probably somewhere in Dubai. And I'd say, you're right. It's the Burj Khalifa. It's the tallest elevator in the world. I was fortunate to go up this elevator. It only takes 61 seconds to go from floor 0 to 145. 61 seconds. So then I would say, Christian, what's your elevator pitch of your 60-minute town hall speech that you're going to deliver here? Because honestly, that's all people are going to remember. You are going to sell a feeling in there. So that's the other thing I would say, Christian, is the famous poet Maya Angelou once said, people will forget what you said, but never how you made them feel. So I would say 3 things. What feeling are we selling within your team and the business, internally or externally? Can we boil it down to 3 things? And if you had a 4th one, as Shaitan Benoit, that you know really well, my colleague based in Dallas. So, hey, Shay, you're going to have to listen to this now because I just dropped your name in there. He would say triple win plus 1. You're allowed a 4th one, but it better not go against the 3 priorities that you have. It's the bonus. It's the corporate social responsibility, the environmental impact, the feel-good story. And then ultimately, could you deliver it in 61 seconds if you had to? If someone took away all your slides, took away your 59 minutes, could you deliver it in a minute? And I can tell you that leaders that are confident, that have worked the plan with their team, that know where they're going, they could put it on a page. So that's why I plan on a page. If you can't put it on a page, you don't have a plan. And they could deliver an elevator pitch in 61 seconds. So that would be what I would work on until we get really good with that. And then use the other time to have more of a conversation, a Q&A, a back and forth. But don't get lost in slide 62 showing your team your homework and trying to show how intelligent you are and why you deserve the title of president, CMO, CEO, whatever, VP sales, whatever it is. So.
It's so true. I love this. This is amazing, Julien. Love it. So can we shift gear a little bit towards habits that create the strategic calm, What are those habits that you see the greatest leaders you came across or from your study that are really, really important to them, that push them towards the top 5, or top 1%? Are there specific traits to those habits or?
Yeah. And look, I think, 2 things. First of all, thank you for sending me some themes up front, because my thing is, when I come on a podcast or when I have a conversation or when I interview people, is I want the person being interviewed to go through a reflection, to go through hey, look, let's take inventory here of me. These are big questions. So my joke was, whether I showed up here or not today, you gave me some good questions to reflect on. And I know one of the theme was around this. And obviously in preparation, because every year I've done it now since James Clear has launched Atomic Habits. And this year, I don't know if you picked up his workbook. It's
Oh,
amazing.
no.
No, he just launched
Good.
it during the holidays. So for all our listeners here, you definitely want to pick this up. So 2 things. And it's not going to surprise you because I think the fundamentals are the fundamentals of what gives someone that calmness, that ability to see things clearly, to not panic, to fall in love with the process, knowing that the outcome will appear when it's ready if you've worked the process, is this. It comes back to how you organize your energy. I'm not going to say time. I'm going to say energy. And there's a model that I've leaned in personally, because I would never ask someone to do something unless I had, been a lab rat and I had seen the results. And then I had talked to others that had used this model that said, Julien, it completely changed everything. And it's the 70-20-10 model of leading. You might have bumped into it because it came from the Valley, actually. It came from Silicon Valley in software. And
Okay.
I'll explain how I've tweaked the model to bring it back to habits, to bring it back to energy. So the model is this. 70% of your time, energy, efforts in your business should be spent on your core business. That's what you're paid to do. Be 1% better every day in the spirit of James Clear, Atomic Habits. And, you'll get, as Albert Einstein once said, what's the 8 wonder of the world? It's compounding, right? If you show up 1% better, suddenly you wake up and, hey, you just grew 10% when the category was growing 2%, and your 70% is in great shape. 20% of your time, energy, effort should be spent on calculated risk. Things that you should do, but you just haven't carved out the time. So working on the business versus in the business, for instance.
Right.
And 10% should be Hail Marys. It's a football analogy, right? I'm going to throw the ball as deep as I can, and I'm going to hope someone catches it. But if they catch it, we have a touchdown. We've completely changed the game. And let's bring it back to time management here. I'll use the word time management. That would mean 14 days a month, you'd be working on your core, 4 days a month on your calculated risk, and 2 days a month on your Hail Marys. That's why Google has their Google days, for instance, where you work on your pet projects, every second Friday. And I can tell you this. It's funny that we both work at PepsiCo, and I don't know if you knew this, because I didn't know this until a few years ago. Indra Nooyi, that's one of the most successful CEOs in consumer packaged goods. I think she went 12 years without missing a quarter for Wall Street. She understood how to manage expectations, strategize, and then execute with excellence against it. It's uncanny. She says that the reason she had that run is because her 10% outperformed their 90%. She would literally get everybody that reported into her to show her how they were going to optimize their year 70, 20, 10.
Wow.
And the reason I share that, if I know today at 4:00 I'm working my 20%, it gives me a different mindset and calmness, and I'm not fighting a fire. I'm not in the 70% right now. I'm now thinking about next year. If I'm in the 10%, you know what it does? It probably gives me tremendous energy so that when I go back to my 70%, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take care of business here because I want that opportunity to do this game-changing thing that's going to completely change my relationship with customer XYZ or with my team or with, my partners. So notice I didn't talk necessarily about what you do necessarily with the 70-20-10 in terms of habits. What I'm talking about is you've carved out the space, the time to know that you're spending time in those 3 buckets.
This is fantastic. I want to riff on a little bit more on limiting belief.
Yeah.
Do you find that leaders that are the best at what they do don't have limited belief, or they suppress them, or they have a unique way of confronting them? Like, what's your observation around this, and what practical tip can you give the listeners on on how to handle limiting belief? We all have the imposter syndrome as well.
I think, this is a podcast in itself because obviously beliefs, it might have been something that started in your value system when you were 5 years old, and it was just fed over the years. And I'll tell you what the risk is as leaders. You get promoted typically because you're very good. So let's just use sales. You were a great sales rep, so you got promoted to an account manager. You were a great account manager, then you became a national account manager. You were great at that, you became a director of sales. You're great at that, you're a VP of sales. Now you're EVP of, I don't know, sales and marketing. So typically, you kind of start drinking your own Kool-Aid because you've been successful along the way. You've been rewarded with money, with titles. And the risk is you become prisoner of your reference point. So I've said this, therefore I'm going to find data. I'm going to build teams around me to support that belief system or that reference point. The best advice I can give any leader that is confident, not arrogant, is surround yourself constantly with people that see the world very differently than you. And that's going to create a lot more friction on your teams. I love the example of the book Team Arrivals. When Obama became the president of the US, they asked him about, books that had impacted his thinking. And he said the book Team Arrivals was the book that probably impacted his leadership style the most. And again, not to go political here. So if we have American friends, whether you're on the left team, right team, middle team, but what was amazing, Christian, is it was inspired by Abraham Lincoln. Have you read Team Arrivals, the book?
No.
So basically, just to simplify the construct, is before becoming the president, obviously he had to win the nomination for his party. And when you're trying to win a nomination, no different than we would here in Canada, it can get quite contentious with your rivals, where they insult each other, they have different point of views because they're all fighting to be the leader. So what he did after he won the nomination is all the people that he debated and went against during the primary, he put them on his team. Because he said, I want rivals in my room so that someone is challenging my financial thinking. Someone is challenging my societal views on X, Y, Z. And funny enough, when Obama brought in Hillary Clinton, it was a bit inspired by that because, they were rivals. Hey, she's really good at certain things, especially on the global front that he had no experience. Let me bring a rival in the boardroom. So what I would say is, to me, being confident is very easy. It's very easy. As long as you're okay being wrong, as long as you don't take yourself too seriously, you can make fun of yourself, you have humility, you know you're going to be wrong most times, and that you're prepared to listen aggressively, and that you're prepared to find new solutions and ask different questions, then why would you not be confident as a leader? And why would you not want your belief challenged? Because remember, what got you here is not going to get you there. Yes, there's components of it that might do that. But the reality, selling in 2026, if you're not a tech-forward leader that's really investing in your personal skills and unleashing all these great AI tools around you, you're going to become irrelevant really quick. You're going to wake up one day and be like, what just happened to me? The game completely changed.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's a long-winded answer, but it starts with reference points. And then it's about surrounding yourself with people that are going to challenge those conviction points and then allowing yourself to be challenged as a leader.
Love that. Love that. How do you work with leaders to transfer this confidence on their team? Most teams I'm working with, at least, I can feel it's, you can feel it. The pressure is on. Their seats are ejectable anytime. The market is very difficult. Every fundamentals have changed, right? The game is completely different. It's like the chess board it's a new chess game. We have new rules. How do you, as a leader, how do you instruct or work with coach leaders to take that confidence that they built most of the time, or at least that they're working on building, to transfer it with their team? We touched upon that earlier, but is there specific ways of doing it that you found very effective that could be very useful for anyone watching? Or
Yeah, like I think, look, the one thing I've learned is it's okay for me to have a point of view and observe things, but then you want some research and some science to validate that, geez, what I'm seeing has actually been studied. And so I'm not the first person saying this. So let's go
Mm.
back to the study that was done on high performance teams at Google. I think it was called Project Aristotle, if you've heard of this project, where it was done probably about 15 years ago, but the lessons or the learnings or the insights apply more than ever.
Mm.
And the notion was this: they studied all these teams within Google. And of course, the IQ was off the chart, the emotional intelligence was there. What they observe is the teams that perform at another level, even world class within the Google ecosystem, is because there was psychological safety. So there's a buzzword that we've all heard that was at play. If I were to oversimplify that, my words here of psychological safety, that people can challenge and be vulnerable without fear. I'm not going to lose my job just because I'm challenging you, Christian, or I'm admitting to the CFO that, look, my financial acumen is not where it should be. Of course, I understand a P&L. I don't understand how inventory is impacting working capital that has a direct correlation on, net margin. I totally butchered that for my financial friends, but just to drive the example home.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I'm a confident leader, I now need to create a space, a safe space. I need to create the environment and the condition for people to be vulnerable, to have humility, to challenge each other, obviously respectfully, to allow the most junior people in the business to have ideas because they understand the chessboard better than someone like me that's been playing the game a certain way without realizing that there's a whole other game that's now being played that I wasn't even part of. As my kids would say, like, stop it with your dad jokes, because that the 6-7 was done last year, right? You're late to the party on that. So I think it's simple, is ask yourself the question, would you want to be led by yourself as a leader? Did you create enough freedom within a framework? So of course, as a leader, your job is to land on a framework and non-negotiables, because there's been commitments to the board, there's been commitments to investors, there's been commitments to customers, to partners, and then have the confidence to have enough freedom within the framework for people to make errors, to lose 47% of the time, as Roger Federer mentioned, knowing that sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And I think we need to redefine, and that's why a lot of leaders are not confident. They're afraid of what happens if I lose this year.
Yeah.
I've never lost in the last 7 years. Category was growing 2%, and I found a way to grow 3% because I basically took the last person's playbook. I made a few tweaks. I was relentless. I executed. And by the way, my product launch hit, so I'm going to take credit for that if I'm the salesperson or finance or ops, right? So,
Very cool. I love that. I love it. So in closing, it's already a closing.
Wow, I'm not ready. I'm just starting. We're just warming up.
We're just starting. We can keep going. Would you, anyone listening right now, founder, marketer, team leaders that feel, stuck or unsure at the moment in those difficult times, is there one move that you've seen having the most, what is that one move they can make over the next 30 days that could set them apart or shift or set like a reset button and give them that confidence that they, or at least start seeing that light of confidence in those times of change and uncertainty?
Well, listen, I came prepared for this one because this one I figured you would ask me because of the obsession / healthy obsession, I would say, that we have with James Clear and Atomic Habits. So literally, I have a pen here where it reminds me that you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, from James Clear. So I would go back to control the controllables. And I can offer advice here because I was that person in 2025. So I had the most challenging year that I've ever had, times 10, because we had some health issues with my oldest daughter. And for all the dads here, uncles, grandparents, hard to be fully yourself when you see your little one struggling. And just as a caveat, the light's good at the end of the tunnel here, and we're heading in the right direction. There's a surgery coming, so all of it. But here was the deal. I have a lot of people that I'm responsible to help them achieve their goals or ambitions, whether they're our clients, team members. So I still had to find a way to show up. Systems over my goals. So what I went to is, what are the cornerstone habits that I could do every day? So control the controllables. What are the 5 things that I could do to, no matter what the day has in store for me, Christian, whether I come home and it's been a rough day, with obviously my wife, my kids, because of what we've gone through, that at least I could say, check. And James Clear, in his book, Atomic Habits, talks about it takes 66 days on average to form a habit, not the 21 days that we all drank the Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar Kool-Aid, because who doesn't want 21-day abs and 21-day glutes? And, so it's 66 days. But if you back out your weekends, I've kind of done the rough math, it's basically a business quarter. It's 90 days. That's why the first 90 days matter. So what I did for myself starting in December, and I would offer up this advice for everybody, is what are 5 things that I could do every day that I would feel good about the day? Because that builds momentum, and suddenly it's amazing how different energy comes up and laws of attractions kick in and your creativity goes and all of it. So I'll share those 5 things because they were inspired by a challenge that I did in 2021 when I was lost a bit during the pandemic like everybody else. And I said, man, I got to be productive here and I got to control something. And I had done this challenge called 75 Hard. I don't know if you've heard of this physical challenge, mental challenge called 75 Hard. I won't get into the details of 75 Hard. I'll let our listeners do the research. Just type in 75 Hard and you'll realize that it's a crazy 75-day challenge because you have to do 5 things every day. And if you miss one of those 5, you have to start all over again. And one was physical, one was mental, one was nutrition, and one was, so forth. So what I did is I took the learnings from that. I looked at when am I my best as a leader? What are the things that I'm doing when I'm at my best? So I put these in 5 buckets and I said, man, it takes me no more than probably 90 minutes a day spread out throughout the day. But I can tell you at the end of the day, I'm on day 24 and I'm going to get myself to 66 days, Christian, is I do this every day. So the first thing I do is I have to drink 3 liters of water during the day. And I'll tell you why that's important. It's because I make better nutritional choices when I'm hydrated. That's what I learned when I did this 75 Hard. So it's this notion of stacking habits. I'm not worried necessarily about, I love salty chips. I love salty. There you go. Good for you. Hydrate. So that's one bucket. I don't call it nutrition, just hydrate. I can do that. Now, I'll tell you though, 3 liters is a lot of water. You better have a little bit when you wake up because you can't just at 9 o'clock at night start. It's going to be a rough night.
You spend 30 minutes drinking and 30 minutes in the bathroom, right?
Exactly. At 3 in the morning, right? I'm 51 now, Okay. So too much information there, T. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The second thing is I need a block, and it's only 15 minutes of reading. But I read around what I call the science of success. So it's all positive stuff. There's a place to read nonfiction or whatever, but these are books like I just finished Atomic Habit again. So I'm priming myself. So that's my learning block. And by the way, there's days it might be 45 minutes, but no matter what, I'm doing 15 minutes. And the hydration, I start first thing in the morning, and the reading is the other thing I do. Then the third thing I do is I have a reflection journal, so journaling. Yeah. And I write my goal for the day, my 3 wins that I want, my lessons learned from the day before, and then I finish the day with what am I grateful for? So I knock off the gratitude journal. So it reminds me that even in a tough day, like I'm grateful for this. Even if the rest of the day goes sideways, Christian, I've had an amazing day because of you. So thank you, right?
Oh, thank you.
That would be gratitude. The next bucket, and there's going to be something around movement. So I borrowed Matthew McConaughey's famous line, which is just sweat every day. So I don't have to work out for 45 or an hour, but I need to sweat. So if I only had 11 minutes because I'm traveling, guess what? I'm on the treadmill and I'm going as hard as I can. Hopefully I don't take a heart attack, but I will sweat. So sweat every day. And then my last block It's a 30-minute block of creativity. So it's the block of creating something. So for instance, I haven't missed posting on LinkedIn since August 2022. Every day I post something. Most days it's probably not that good, but I don't miss a day. Right now, the 30 minutes is dedicated to the book because I'm in the editing phase right now. So every day it's just kind of like, yeah, I need to rewrite a paragraph. So ultimately, what I'm saying, Christian, is before the world gets to me on the personal front, with my team, with my clients, with all the demands of the 70% that I mentioned, every day I can tell you that I learned, I reflected, I moved, I hydrated. Tell me that's not a good day.
Nobody can take that away from you, right? It's
Nobody.
nobody.
All the controllables. And honestly, Jerry Seinfeld had the best definition around habits. He basically credits becoming a billionaire comedian. I think Kevin Hart now is a billionaire too, but he was the first. He was the first billionaire comedian.
Wow.
And he said, I have a lot of colleagues, comedians that are way funnier than I am and way smarter, but they don't have the discipline because they're artists, right? Artists, we follow the energy, then we come out of it. So he said at the start of the year, and I love this, and if you Google this, friends that are listening to this, you'll see pictures of him talk about this, videos, is he goes old school. He has a calendar, and you can see 365 days, and every day he has to write for at least an hour. That's it. And then he puts an X. And his advice is this: just don't break the chain. If you miss one day, James Clear talks about this, your habit's not broken. If you miss 2 days, it's no longer a habit. So what I do is if I miss a day of something, I double up the next day. So I can look at you and say at the end of the year, I've done this thing for 365 days.
Wow.
And I think any leader that's either crushing it, caught in the messy middle, or trying to figure out, okay, what do I do to get that thing going again? What are your cornerstone habits? Make them easy. Like, for instance, I was coaching someone, he wanted to get stronger. So day 1, he did 1 push-up. Day 2, he did 2. Ramped up all the way to day 100, where he's 100 push-ups, and now he hasn't missed a day. And if he misses a day, the next day he does 200. Well, he says, at the end of the day, I might have been in a lot of bad meetings. I might not have delivered on expectations at home or at work, but I did my 100 push-ups. So what I'm basically challenging myself. So this is advice to myself, advice to you, Christian, and advice to anybody else listening. What are your cornerstone habit? And be ruthless. And these are non-negotiables. Make them easy though. They shouldn't be like, I need to work out 2 hours a day, because that's not going to happen. Unless you're in marathon training, that's a different approach that you would take at that point. What advice would you give, Christian? Because I know that you're passionate about this. So you're coaching people. So you see someone like me, let's say last year, that would have been lost. And I'd say, look, pal, I don't know where to start. What advice would you have given me?
That's a very good question. And I don't pretend having a very good answer like you at all. But I can say something is one habit I'm trying to, and it's a more settled thing, is trying to be carving time with no distraction so I can listen to my gut a little bit more, because I find this is ruining everything. Discipline around this at home is super important for me, for my kids. They don't have one, but just so that this quiet time, and normally the quiet time that I find the easiest is before everybody wakes up in the household, right? Having this moment where just my dog and I are sitting there. Whether I journal, because I do journal as well. It's a new habit that I have. I love it because it just brings clarity. But carving, being intentional about it, because some people wait for the trivial moment where, oh, okay, right now I have nothing to do. No TV, no nothing, right? Just a walk. The best thing to do is go for a walk for 30 minutes, no phone, no pods, and just make sure that we set ourselves in a state of consciousness, right? Where you listen, you observe around, you just like your senses are being commanded. But That's one thing I feel has made a lot of difference to me. And I can see a lot of people needing this, to have led team in the past where you can go on for 2 minutes before somebody puts their phone on the table and you're like, okay, am I that boring or what? Like, what's going on here? No, it's like, it's automatic, right? I'm not sure if what you have to say about this, but
Oh,
listening
it's
to my gut.
amazing. It's funny. You started by, of course, such humility. Oh, I haven't thought about this. It's a fantastic answer because you're doing it. You're leading by example. And I think I love my morning routine. Like I love waking up, that same thing with my dog, first 30 minutes and my wife comes in, we have coffee. It's magical. Robin
Hmm.
Sharma calls it the 5 a.m. club. Like, it's like, to me,
Yep.
that's magical. Or if you're a late person, maybe it's 11 to 12
Yep.
at night when everybody's sleeping and that's when you do. But I think being conscious and listening to yourself, and then, you know, I would add one more bonus
Okay.
advice that I would give people is get really good at reframing questions. Get really good at reframing questions. I
Mm.
think we get the answers we deserve. We ask a bad question, we get a bad
Wow.
answer. And honestly, like I'll give you a perfect example. Instead of what does success look like this year, Christian, between me and you, if we were to partner, what are we celebrating together at the end of the year? That's a different conversation because we're saying we're going to win. We're just going to decide where are we going to win together. Instead of, I don't know, how do we grow? How do we accelerate growth? Because those are two different things that are going to happen.
True.
So get really good at listening to yourself, carving that dedicated space like you're doing. Think about the questions that you should be exploring for yourself and your teams in your business. And what would happen if you reframe these questions? If you changed a few words, if you changed the energy, and then you went in with your teams and you actually listened aggressively and listened to understand and listen to find better solutions to challenge your belief system, then wow. I think that's where suddenly I don't think you lose confidence. I don't think you can lose your confidence. I think what you can lose is your mojo, your energy. But if
Yeah.
you're able to do something, it's always there. It's just a matter of tapping back into it ultimately through process, reflection, and all the stuff that we've talked about throughout this conversation, Christian.
That's amazing. We get the answer we deserve. I love this.
do.
I
We
love
do.
this.
We do.
It's a question of reframing. You're absolutely right. Using the negative as opposed to using the positive is an easy one, right? Or vice versa, I should say. Love the advice here, my friend. We could go on.
One more bonus because I know you're editing. You're
Yeah,
going to
yeah, yeah,
choose,
yeah. Please, please.
but this is good. So the power of questions, I think great leaders understand that it's all about the questions. You don't need to have the answers. You just need to make sure you're having the right conversation because you're going to then get, what you deserve out of it. And the power of words.
Mm.
Great leaders, and I'm obsessed with great leaders. I love studying them. I love having conversations with them. I love just watching them. I love trying to unpack what is the magic of these great leaders.
Mm.
They understand the power of words. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So your kids are involved in sport, Christian, a little bit?
Yep.
Activity,
Yep.
arts. Okay. So I'm sure at one point they're going to come to you and say, hey, Papa, I'm nervous today. And you have a choice here. You can feed into that, or you can say, actually, you mean you're excited, right? And they're going to look at you. It's the same biological reaction, whether you're excited or nervous, sweaty palms, heartbeat goes up. Call it excitement. Good things happen. Is it a challenge or is it an opportunity? Is it a cost or is it an investment? It's the same thing. Is it a fixed mindset, growth mindset? So I think leaders, we talked about the ability to communicate, elevator pitch, all of that. They also understand the power of questions and the power of words. So with that said, I had to add that one in there at the closing bell here, Christian, at the closing bell.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to use this one with my son,
It works.
especially.
It's fantastic.
Julien, thank you so much. Thank you for coming here with the same. I wouldn't have expected less from you, like the same energy that I know from you, the same dedication to give value. Thank you so much. I hope we can do this again when you launch your book, because I would love everyone to get to know your book, and maybe you can do a quick workshop around that. But
well, how about
I
this?
love
I
this.
will do I'll do the reverse mentorship is I will have you as a guest and we'll talk about confidence because I'll ask you questions around when were you at your most confident? When did you struggle with confidence? When were you
Mm,
arrogant? What have you seen here? So I will get you to do your preparation research because I want to learn from you. Even though you shared a few things, it was more,
yeah.
you asking me questions. So we'll flip it around in the fall. Okay.
Awesome. And I'll go in the studio in Ottawa. Make the
Perfect. We'll do it.
drive
We'll
from
be here.
Quebec to Ottawa.
Awesome. I love it. Well, listen, Christian, un gros merci. I love seeing you. I could feel your energy as well. And I'm going to
Although
wish you
I'm
an
sick.
awesome, awesome 2026. So,
Yeah, thank you. Same to you. We'll definitely be in touch.
sounds good, man.
Talk soon.